This is a demonstration video that will show you how to assemble and stitch a French cuff that utilizes a faced cuff placket and attach that to a sleeve. So this is a multi-step sample that we're doing because not only do we have the bottom of the sleeve, we have to apply a placket, so that opening so that your hand can go through, and then we're attaching a cuff to it. So just know that going into this, it might be challenging, but you know, we're getting towards the end of the semester, so all of this, you know, it advances and it adds on to everything. So you know, this is our last sample for the class, so why wouldn't it be a little bit more challenging than definitely when we started off. So as always, it's always a good idea to familiarize yourself with the process that is outlined in your construction packet and textbook, and then also familiarize yourself with your patterns. The process that I'll be doing is slightly different than the one that is outlined in your construction packet, because instead of using our cuff or of creating like a cuff that is split into a cuff piece and a cuff facing, we just cut two of those. So one side we're going to have like two pieces of our cuff. The French cuff is usually a very large cuff anyway. So we have a cuff which actually has the facing and then the facing piece to it. So instead of kind of doing all the dividing and the math and worry about like having different size pieces, we're just going to cut two and make our own that way. The first thing that we do, what we need to do is we need to create that placket. In our previous sample, we created a continuous bound placket, and so we're going to be creating that opening, that triangular opening on the bottom of our sleeve, so that our hand can go through along the sleeve hem or along the cuff. And so we have to have a way that edge is finished, that triangle is finished. And this method is going to be, we're using the faced cuff placket method, F-A-C-E-D, faced cuff placket. And this is your little piece for that. Hopefully you'll use your transfer paper and your tracing wheel to go ahead and put these markings, this triangular marking and this dash stitch line. I used mine, but then I took it over to the iron because you can see that there's a 1/4 inch all along these three edges on the outside edge, and what you want to do is you want to fold those back and press them. So when I pressed mine, I think some of my my markings actually came off, so I need to just line that up real quick. Then I'm going to put a pin at the top to identify where that point is. And I'm going to come in from the back side with my pin, my marking pin, and just put a little dot so I know where the top of that triangle is, so I can redraw those lines. So if that's something that you need to do, it's always handy to have your ruler close by so you can redraw or remark things as needed. So I'm just going to redraw those lines, the triangle lines on my facing piece, and hopefully also you trace and mark those on your sleeve as well, because what we're going to do is we're going to apply our facing and then put it with right sides together to our sleeve piece. So again, the first thing that you want to do on that facing is to go ahead and fold back those 1/4 inches all around the three edges and press those into place. Then what you want to do is you want to come from the top side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from the bottom edge, which is along the bottom of the triangle, the widest part of the triangle. While my edges are folded back, and feel free to put some pins in if that helps you to hold everything in, I'm going to start and I'm going to stitch here, just running my folded edge along the 1/8 inch markings, and I'm just going to stitch all the way around, going down, then pivot and turn and come back and then go back up the other edge, just to hold those folded edges back, because we want to have a type of edge finish, so nothing is raw and open. So I'm going to just do a quick back tack again. Make sure that your stitch length is at 2.5, and we're just doing a straight stitch, and again I'm running that fold line along the 1/8 inch marking. And as I approach that corner, I'm just going to stop when I get close to the end, lift up my presser foot, keeping my needle down, rotating my fabric, and then continuing along that straight line. And again, when I get to that corner, leave my needle in the down position, lift up my presser foot, turn my fabric, and then I can continue along this straight edge here. And when I get to the end of this fold line, I'm just going to do a quick back tack. It's probably not necessary because this raw edge is actually going to go into a seam, but if you feel a little bit better about making sure everything's secure, then you can go ahead and do that. The next thing that we need to do is we need to place our facing sample with right sides together on top of our actual sleeve piece. And what I did was I just did some notches at the bottom of my sleeve piece where that triangle opened up. But I should have like a notch marking that I can line up on my sample here, as well as some notch markings on the bottom of my sample. And again, if you want to use that tracing paper, feel free. But I'm just going to line up my notches along the bottom and go ahead and put some pins in. And even though I drew those straight lines on the front, now what I'm running into is I'm running into an issue that I can't seam on the back. So I got to take my ruler again and just sketch those lines, connecting my notches at the bottom to that point that I had marked on the top. So if you need to pull out your pattern piece again to just transfer these markings, I would go ahead and do that now, or take the time to do that, or use that tracing paper to transfer those markings. And then what I also want to do is we're going to be slashing up this triangle just like we did in our continuous bound placket, but I just want to give myself a kind of a guideline because sometimes I'm bad with cutting straight lines. So okay, I got all my markings transferred. And then what I want to do is I want to come back in and I would just want to pin this, the facing sample down here around the edge, just so everything lies flat, or lays flat, when I go to do this stitch next. Okay, and I'm just going to put a couple pins around the outside. I'm going to be stitching on that triangle, but I just want to make sure that all my facing piece is going to lay flat. So I might move this pin over just a slight bit, just so it's not going to be in the way of my presser foot. Alright, so I got my facing piece laying right down on top of where those markings are on my actual sleeve. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start stitching at the bottom of that triangle, come all the way up to the top, pivot, and then come back down the bottom. And I'm just doing this right on those, using my 2.5 inch stitch length. And I'm going to do a quick back tack at the beginning and end of this stitch line, just to make sure everything stays secure. Alright, and as I near the top of that point, just want to slow down, make sure I don't go too far, rotate that fabric with that needle in the down position, and then come back. Alright, now when I get to that notch, which was where I had marked there, I'm just going to do a quick back tack, raise up my needle and presser foot, and trim those thread tails. Alright, now what we're going to do is you can go ahead and remove those pins that are just kind of holding everything flat and in place while you did that reinforcing stitch line. And we want to come in with our scissors and we want to slash right up the middle of this, all the way up to that point. And we're slashing through all layers, so now make sure that it's not just the facing, we're cutting through, or we're slashing through the facing and the sleeve, so everything's cut here all the way up to that very point. And the better, or the closer you can get those scissors kind of snipped in there up to that point, the easier the next step is going to be. So what we have here is we have our facing that is, kind of flapping around a little bit on the outside, and then it's attached at this at that reinforced line. But then we also have this seam right here that is now going to be open. So what we want to do is we want to go over to the ironing board, and we want to press this little tiny triangle shaped seam open. So once you press it open, you do that one press, and then you're going to press it towards the facing, because the next step that we're going to do is we're going to kind of flip all this facing to the inside. So then we'll have a nice shaped triangle on the outside. Now it's kind of hard to see just because everything's like not pressed, but that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to stop the video and go over to the ironing board, and I'm going to, let me flip everything back open, or flip everything with my right sides together. I'm going to press this seam open, and then I'm going to press my seam allowances over to the facing side. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video, do that, and be right back.